Meteorologist Casey Cloud back with you here on this Monday afternoon, coming on the air because we have a severe thunderstorm warning now toward parts of Duval and Nassau counties here. So portions of that metro there in the First Coast region under a warning now for damage and wind potential about 4:30. So we need to make sure we're taking that seriously here. We had the warning earlier on toward St. Augustine. That one we had the rotation toward St. Johns River. And now another severe thunderstorm warning this toward the metro there in toward Duval County. Let's go to velocity. You can see some pretty bright colors close to the radar site. It's just right here. And we have the wind coming right toward that, which is at Jacksonville International Airport. So some dangerous conditions there toward the airport and toward Jacksonville. Yeah, over the next several minutes, already lightning there. It's already getting pretty dangerous, but it's just going to get worse here before I get to better toward Jacksonville International Airport there in northern Duval County. So again, we need to take this seriously here, inside and away from windows right now, right toward Jacksonville International Airport. Could very well get a pretty strong gust reading here on the sensor, on the METAR here pretty soon. 25 was a reading about 10 minutes ago or so, but we'll get another update here soon. You know, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see a number that exceeds 45, 50 miles an hour. Could even be over the severe threshold, even based on the height of that sensor. So that's something to very much, take into consideration as we're looking at things, as we're tracking things here in toward the weather center. We're going to try to pull up some traffic cameras. There should be some, views here that really can tell that story there in toward that area, right toward the airport. So let me go up this I-95 a little bit. We'll go to areas there, around 365.7. The mile marker, and it looks pretty bad right now. So we'll put that on the screen for everybody here to StormX, and moving on in as we speak. You can see the inclement conditions there at the moment. That wind blowing around some for sure. As we're looking at it, was just 98 degrees not that long ago at the airport in that area, and now, get the storm to come in. So that obviously, is some very ripe conditions for the storm action to take advantage of, to be, more significant in terms of the intensity of the action. So again, that's what we're dealing with right now. Let's keep looking for some more traffic camera views. Bear with me here. Move away from that one. Keep looking at the situation, 95 just east of the airport here, or maybe going, closer toward the airport, but if I did up a couple more scans, it was a little bit easier to see, it was just slightly further off the ground. That was some 60-mile winds there, right when they issued that warning, pretty much coming right on in. This is coming right toward that airport area still, it would seem, as we're tracking things. So, gonna keep checking some different viewpoints here on the situation, as we're watching the moment-by-moment looks here at things. Let's go to this shot here, Airport Road, west of I-95. We're just going to keep on tracking things, keep on monitoring things there as the situation does progress. Just trying to give you guys the very latest on what's going on. Just trying to keep you guys up to date here on what's happening. I know we're just going to go ahead and keep on checking some more viewpoints. It's the top of the hour. We may have more new viewers joining us here. So let me kind of recap the situation here. We have a severe thunderstorm warning reports into Duval and Nassau until 4:30. So it goes now. It's continuing to the, it started at 3:46, but it's going to the bottom of the hour for central Nassau and northeastern Duval. At 3:46, the severe thunderstorm there was located near Callahan, moving southeast at 10 miles an hour. So pretty slow mover, could have quite a bit of rain with it. Got to watch out for some of those areas that typically flood to have some issues. As we have Jacksonville, Callahan, Jacksonville International Airport, Nassau Village, Ratliff, Ocean Wind, Talleyrand. Under this, it's a situation where we do need rain in some areas, but we don't want too much too quick, because that can cause, some flash flooding in the more vulnerable spots. So we just got to be very mindful of that here as we're tracking here, there's 1 hour rainfall rate. Some areas exceeding an inch there, but maybe, some of the areas could definitely exceed 2 inches as we look at Baker County. That storm there is not severe at this point. We'll watch. It didn't look really impressive, but there's a lot of lightning, so be careful whenever thunderstorms go indoors. But the wind mode didn't look real impressive, but, the airport's getting it. So it's probably blocking that wind, viewpoint a little bit here, even on the radar perspective. And in fact, speaking about that view being blocked there, we did just get a warning now for Baker County. So maybe, let me back this up a little to see if it was showing stronger before the beam kind of started getting all that storminess around and to block things. Let me check the Moody's side. It may be showing a stronger signature as well. I mean, it could be a quick burst of wind and something like this. I would say it's not as impressive as I would, generally expect for a warning, maybe, but it could be we get a quick burst of wind. So we now have a warning out toward Baker County, especially, though it does include a little bit of Union and Columbia. At 4:01 p.m., a severe thunderstorm is located near Sanderson, or 18 miles north of Rayford, moving southeast at 10 miles an hour. McClenny, Glen St. Mary, and Sanderson here under this. So we're just going to keep on watching that situation there as well. So again, we're always trying to stay on top of the scenario. They just get a gust of 39 at Jacksonville Airport. On the other sensor data we were waiting for there, that's what we were kind of alluding to. So let me go ahead and keep on looking at things, keep on tracking things here with this. See what else we can pull up in terms of camera views. See if I can get something on 295 to south of the airport. Maybe, maybe we can get it looking back kind of there. But we'll just look at some dark skies anyway. But as we're looking at things, as we're tracking things, you see what we're dealing with there. As the situation does, transpire. You see the camera shaking some. Just, don't want to be on the road if you can avoid it this time of, day with the storminess in play. But I know sometimes it can't be avoided, so that's something to definitely keep in mind. So, again, we're just going to keep on watching things, keep on tracking it here. Just going to keep on giving you guys the very latest here on what is happening. So let me go ahead and move away from that. We're going to try to move on here to another viewpoint. As the situation does transpire, there's another view. We're watching the warnings. You see McClenny, but you also see Northern Duval, where it looked a little bit stronger. Try another camera view here. Cloud's moving pretty fast on it, so let me go ahead and throw it up on the screen. You see some rain on the lens, but there's 295 there. As we're looking, as we're tracking. Just trying to give you guys the very latest here on what's going on. Looks like some adverse weather conditions here for sure. Just got to be aware of it all on this Monday, on this July 21st, 2025. Definitely not fun weather to deal with. You see all those brake lights coming on there. Just a little bit busy, a little bit stormy for sure. As we go ahead and keep on watching and keep on tracking. Again, we're just trying to give you guys the very latest here. Let me jump back onto the other mode here. You see the velocity. See all this wind coming right into Jacksonville here. I know it's so close to the radar, but I suspect these, gusts higher even than 39 already. Tropical storm force confirmed, but could be, a little bit higher in that range, obviously, as we're looking here, maybe like 50 or something like that. Could even be 60. As we look here in the southeastern Nassau County, as we're looking there towards some of those coastal areas, even some of this wind going to be kind of pushing that direction. And they're not officially under a warning further east, but definitely some nasty conditions over there. They may have to add another polygon depending on how things progress, but a lot of lightning and Baker. And again, I don't see a whole bunch of wind with that, but could have some, 60-mile-an-hour gusts, in a localized spot or two, I suppose. As we go ahead, watch for any type of burst of wind. I see a bunch of lightning and Levy, advisory down here, but goodness, that stands out. I'm surprised they're not an advisory, at least, on that. I know, sometimes kind of in between radars, so this might be a little bit stronger than what people think, but a little bit of weak rotation there south of Chiefland, quite honestly. That was a bunch of lightning. It cut my eyes. That's not a severe characteristic in and of itself, but it can be an indicator, of the severe weather in the region. So that's something to kind of, keep in mind as we're looking at things. It can be a symptom of it, but it's not necessarily, it's not officially a severe characteristic. So again, it can be something that it's an indicator, but it's not one of the things that triggers a warning of itself. 51 now at the airport. Okay, so you're getting even worse there in the last few minutes with the update. That was, just a few minutes ago, the observation. Takes a few minutes to come in off the sensor. So we had a gust officially now over 50 miles an hour at Jacksonville Airport there in Duval County. Again, that can cause some damage, some power outages, a tree limb to fall on a power line, or even a tree here and there. Tree limbs, obviously a little more likely probably than trees, but some trees could still fall in these conditions. Tree on a house not out of the question in these type of weather situations. So, again, there's the two warnings right now. We have the warning for parts of Duval and Nassau until 4:30, Baker, and a little bit of Columbia and Union until 4:45. So, again, we're just continuing to give you guys the very latest here, all this instability, all the warm temperatures here as we're looking, as we're tracking. I know there's an advisory now for the Baldwin area to 4:45 as we're watching some enhanced wind there, maybe trying to come on in. Nothing overwhelming yet, but keep our eyes on it. You see a little boundary there right near I-10 there, and that's noteworthy. Could, be a trigger for some stuff, but also could indicate some, winds there pushing on out as we're looking, and, some winds, not with rain coming into a few communities. So just got to keep our eyes on all of that, obviously, as we're looking, as we're tracking here, as we give you guys the very latest on what's happening. We're just trying to keep you guys up to date. Just trying to keep you informed. We're just trying to make sure you guys have everything you need here at your disposal in these type of instances. So 4 or 9 p.m. is the time. I know. Let's go ahead and go back over toward the temperatures right now. We're going to go ahead and jump back over to that because that's been a story. Heat advisory, in some more different areas. Very many of them. A lot of them. As we're looking here, you see 99 toward Albany right now. Feels even hotter than that, in the triple digits, but you see 107 what it feels like Tallahassee, 98 the actual air temperature. But areas like Stark, we got into Storm Axon, we're down to 77 degrees right now. So that's something to note here for sure. I know that can help limit instability and, stabilize things some versus destabilizing conditions that we've been seeing here in some of the spots in our region. I know barometric pressure 1015, we have some moisture coming on in. That's the increase in the rain chances. It's been hot, but now storms in the picture here. So you see Camden County, Glenn County, we have some, as we're looking at these readings in the Ward Glenn County, these temperatures are a little bit warmer up that way. As we're looking there, east of 95, it's 95 degrees, ironically, but a couple of different spots there on the 2 different sensors. As we're continuing to give you the latest, 96 there on Tipton, 98 around, but after very warm, but then when you get in the rain, it's cooling it off. I mean, it's gonna be muggy afterward for sure, but it's something, you know, you do want it to cool off, but you don't want to storm acts and in the, you know, instances where you have the lightning and the wind potential, you know, which both can cause damage. But you do want rain in a lot of these spots here because we still have some, you know, conditions where we could have wildfire threats around. We've had some issues a little bit here and there, so we got to be getting that rain. We do need that rain. Had some issues there based on media reports, I believe, NASA and Putnam here lately. You know, they're going back to the weekend, so it's going to be kind of careful here as we're looking at the situation. As we go ahead and keep on watching at 411 on this Monday, you do see here as we're looking toward Duval County. Anyway, sometimes when you're so close to the radar, it's hard to see just how bad or not bad, depending on, you know, maybe, you know, making you think that it's worse, but it's not as bad because it was worse earlier and now you can't tell if it's weakened based on the different, you know, views being obstructed a little bit there. But watching some stuff in Georgia. Let me pull up the Moody radar. See Baker County, you see Duval County. As we're looking, that looked pretty strong right into the airport on the other mode. Let's go back to Levy real quick because that's pretty strong, even though it's not, you know, something where you even have an advisory. There's some weak rotation right around the community of Usher, which is south of Seapland there in the word Levy County. So we'll watch that. Be mindful of that there in Levy County. A pretty strong storm there. Not officially warm, but Seapland, Otter Creek, we're watching that there very carefully. To get back up to the north here. Let me just switch over to the other longer range view because you see all this wind. A few minutes ago, at least off the center there and off the velocity. The wind kept going up and up there at Jacksonville Airport. Let's see if we can post some more cameras up maybe. Prefer to do that. Maybe look just southeast of the airport for some. I'm trying to pull up I-295 east south of Pulaski Road. Again, trying to give you guys the very latest here. Again, trying to give you guys the very latest here on what's happening. Just trying to keep you informed. Trying to keep you up to date on what's happening. Jumping away from that for a moment. Gotta keep looking here at the different information. More wind there still. Showing on up. See what else I can pull up here. I know we're looking further away, but to get a better idea of what's happening, because it kind of gets distorted right there. But let's pull this view up. You can see Airport Road there west of I-95. A lot of rain. Don't see a whole bunch of wind in this view, but some lightning. Looks like quite a few those flashes there. You know, definitely can be a storyline as we continue to give you the latest. Again, trying to keep you up to date. Another warning now coming down. This one goes to 5 o'clock. Kind of see a little bit of wind there on the leading edge. Could be an issue. East Central Nassau, North Central St. John's, Eastern Duval County till 5 p.m. At 4:14, severe thunderstorms located along the line extending from near Talbot Island and near Riverside, going southeast at 15 miles an hour. That's at Jacksonville, UNF, Ponte Vedra Beach, Arlington, Jacksonville Beach, Atlantic Beach, Neptune Beach, Bay Meadows, Mayport, and Ortega here underneath that warning. So just got to be mindful of that inside and away from windows where you want to be with these adverse conditions here coming on through. So again, you just got to be really aware of that. Let me go ahead and zoom back on in. See some of these stronger winds indicative here, you know, of the more dangerous conditions. This on velocity where we have the brighter pixels, which does indicate the stronger winds. Let me broaden the view back a little. You can see the warning out toward Baker County. There's stronger winds coming in the McClinney area. Maybe not severe, but they could be, you know, approaching that there in toward the Glen St. Mary area and McClinney. So again, watching for that. You have 3 warnings right now. That's quite a few warnings. You know, this time of year it can happen some, but this is one of the busier periods you're going to have in the summer because, you know, you had all that heat that built up, and then we have the moisture coming in the picture, and you have some different triggers, different boundaries, and here you go. You have some severe weather. So that's what we want the year here to keep you guys informed, and we have a viewer there watching from St. Augustine talking about there was some wind in that area as we were looking just a little while ago. As we were looking towards St. Johns County, and we had some storminess coming on through there. John watching there on YouTube. Again, just trying to give you guys the very latest here on what's going on. Again, we're just trying to stay on top of all of it. Just trying to be here for you. So multiple warnings in effect right now. I'm just trying to monitor the situation. I know, where do I want to go with this now? Let's see. I think we're going to take it back to the broad perspective. We have 1 warning for portions of Nassau, St. John's, and Duval till 5 p.m. At 4:14, severe thunderstorms are located along a line extending from near Talbot Island and near Riverside, going southeast at about 15 miles an hour. Jacksonville, UNF, Ponte Vedra Beach, Arlington, Jacksonville Beach, Atlantic Beach, Neptune Beach, Bay Meadows, Mayport, and Ortega underneath that. So again, we're watching that situation here carefully. I'm just trying to give you guys the very latest on what's going on. I know I have a couple other warnings as well. Portions of Baker, Union, Columbia 4:45, and portions of Duval and Nassau until 4:30. So you just got to be really careful whenever thunder roars. You got to go indoors here in these situations. Let me go ahead and just keep on going here. Marginal risk in Georgia still, but the focal point of the action is more in North Florida here. We've had, and everything kind of come together here, coalesce here with the overall parameters as we're looking with all the different triggers, the moisture, and the instability. So there's something to keep in mind here. Just trying to stay on top of it all. Let's go over to 12-hour rainfall. Zoom into Levy County real quick. They've gotten quite a bit down there, and some of these spots just adding to it. I mean, some spots didn't get as much, you know, as other spots earlier on, but a lot of rain there right now toward Usher, Otter Creek, you know, south side of Bronson, give or take. So, you have a few warnings up this way. the Clinton area on I-10, and then as we get toward Duval County, that's where a lot of the focus is, toward Jacksonville there, and the metro area. I'm going to go back to the other radar presentation. See some of that wind there. Definitely noteworthy. Let me go ahead and see where else I want to go with this. I'm going to try to get over to a traffic cam toward downtown, give or take. We'll take a look at I-95 at Union Street. And there's a view of that. See, it's a pretty slow go. Just got to be aware of that all. Just trying to keep you up to date. .422 is the time. We'll go this a little further up the road where it's even a bit worse looking here in terms of the weather and the traffic. I-95 there. Looking at that view, all those lights on, all that slow movement. This is Interstate 95 there at MLK/20th Street Expressway. Looks like the construction zone as well, so not ideal. Back to the radar we go. I'm going to keep on looking at all that, convection there and the like. You just got to be really careful with everything going on. I'm going to go ahead and pull up another view on 95 at Goffler Boulevard. This is not fun weather to be out in, that is for sure. Really try to be, avoiding the roads. Just some good advice that I can give you here as you're looking toward these areas with the storm action. Try to avoid them right now, but I know some folks just can't. They have to get out in the middle of this. And this is not a good situation here in toward Duval County. Can definitely, lead to accidents there if we haven't already had some by this point in time. So just gotta be mindful of all that. Just trying to keep you up to date. Getting some new reports in here to the Weather Center. There's a report of hail to, I'll show it to you on here. Hail to about a quarter-inch in diameter around 4:20 p.m. there near Yulee Junior High School, the intersection of Minor Road and Duane Avenue. Pea-sized hail reported there in the Yulee area. So pretty small, but still something, that is indicative here of the storminess, toward multiple communities. I'm going to check if there's any more questions or comments from any of the viewers at home. I'm going to switch sources here on my end. Shouldn't see anything change on your end, but I'm just going to check something here on mine to see if there's any questions, comments. As we're live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch here. Trying to give you guys the very latest here this afternoon. It's just so important to do that. It's so important to be on top of things here meteorologically. You know, sometimes you can get stuff to spin up real quick. We almost had a tornado warning earlier toward the St. Johns River, toward that Putnam, St. Johns County line earlier today. Didn't quite happen, but we definitely had to be on guard. Just got to be paying attention in these type of scenarios. Can't let your guard down whatsoever. Going through some more sources here behind the scenes. It's a one-man band, so sometimes I don't talk for a second and then trying to get new information on in. The Thunderstorm warning continuing from McClinney, Glen St. Mary, Sanderson area until 4:45. I know we're always watching across our region. Had some storms earlier around dark, but they weren't severe. Didn't need to go on for those. We just have to be careful whenever thunder roars going toward them. And those are a few hours to go at this point. But try your best at least to get inside sometimes, folks, including myself. Can be out and about. You just got to be kind of careful. Obviously, in these type of situations, the best you can. It is summertime, so stuff can kind of just pop up a little bit sometimes. You know, the potential is there, but then it comes into play very rapidly. There's a covered area, of course, we're in Bradford County. We're always watching the 62 counties. And we provide live coverage here as needed on the different platforms, including, you know, all tornado warning storms. You know, they're on Facebook, live streaming there, on Twitter/X, YouTube, and Twitch, all of those for the 62 county area. But, you know, many severe thunderstorm warnings, flash flood warnings here as conditions are on the different streams as well. And then, you know, if we're not on the different streams like YouTube, we're posting about them on Facebook and Twitter/X. So, very important to keep in mind. Let me go ahead and jump on back here to another mode. Bear with me. Baker County, that doesn't look, you know, really intense right now, but we do have a warning for it. Advisory for Western Duval. Uh-oh. That looks interesting. Just east of Baltimore, we got some rotation just all of a sudden there. That kind of came out of the blue. Must be some interaction going on somewhere in there. Maybe a merger of some storm action. No, that boundary. That's what. Oh, it came out of it, though. I don't know. Interesting. It's somehow causing some spin there, though. Just side of I-10 had the warning to the east. But let me check that. See if we can get a traffic camera up there. Just west of County Road 115. I was hoping we were kind of on a little bit of a weakening trend with some stuff, but I catch my eye for sure. See if I can get a traffic cam up here. Just bear with me. Just trying to get the information on in here. That's just near US 90. We'll try to look at some of the clouds here in the vicinity. Well, it didn't show too much on the one view I pulled up behind the scenes. Let me try a different one. Let's just see some of the reduced visibility there. I-10 at mile marker 350. Definitely something to keep an eye on. That rotation weakened that latest scan. That's good. Sometimes stuff can kind of pop up, even if there wasn't any type of tornado or anything, which would be kind of unlikely. Could have had some quick, burst of wind down to the surface right there. Just west of 115. I know there's not an official warning right there, by the way, but warning to the east, but got some pretty strong inset of velocity here around Jacksonville, Craig Municipal Airport, and Mayport. These numbers may go up on these axial anemometer readings here soon. As we're looking at the warning to the north, that's no longer on the screen. That is something that was going to 4:30, so that's over. And the one to the west has been canceled early. So we're down to go to the latest scan. That's one warning box now for areas there around Craig Municipal Airport, around Mayport there. Something to keep in mind. It's east of, it looks like I-95. See if we can get some traffic camera up there around Craig Municipal Airport, maybe. Give me just a moment. Stuff can kind of evolve, pretty quick in these situations. This is a little bit more sustained over here than some of these little spin ups that you'll get, but weak rotation, not necessarily tornado, but just gotta watch. Let's take you to I-295 east there around Atlantic Boulevard with a live camera view from the Florida 5-1 perspective. There you go. Kind of telling that story. Some stuff going around just a little bit there, especially right there in front of you, that pole, it looks like. Kind of swaying just a little. Let's continue to give you the latest. Try to give you a look around the Sandalwood area. A little bit further in there anyway. Kind of already were giving you that look. Ooh, let's switch to Beach Boulevard. We'll go down toward Beechwood. Ooh, look at these clouds. I know it may be the aperture a little bit, but it may make it look a little worse in there, but this is impressive no matter what. Look at this. Wow, this is very well defined here on the camera view, a live view there, I-295 east south of Beach Boulevard. Whoa, that is really telling that story, kind of a self-cloud type of view here with what we're dealing with. So again, gotta be mindful of this. These are some pretty nasty storms. Don't necessarily see any type of funnel hanging out of this, but definitely a well-defined cloud structure here for sure in the lower part of Duval County here right now. I-295 east there south of Beach Boulevard. So again, just trying to give you guys the very latest here as the situation does evolve. See all that traffic backup. This is not a fun situation. Folks being stuck out in the nasty conditions here, in some areas at some points. So again, you see how things are deteriorating towards some different areas. Other areas is moving, past some of these storms. But right there, that does not look fun. Right there in that vicinity. Again, continuing to watch things. Looks like some of the structural reflectivity is breaking up just a little, but still got to be mindful what's going on. Northern Columbia, a little bit of wind enhancement there. Had that little weak rotation for a second in Duval, but western Duval, but eastern Duval is where we have the warning. As we're watching, as we're tracking. Let's have to be mindful of everything. Some of the worst of this should be kind of at least getting closer to the coast here. As we look, some of this might ride the coast a little longer, but will it be severe warning past 445? It's hard to say. There may be enough energy in terms of the wind left over to keep it going to like 5:15. Okay, this warning goes till 5 actually. We've had a few different warnings here, so let me just check that. Yeah, so that's probably about a good enough time frame on there then. As we're tracking things, as we're checking things on out. So this probably will be able to maintain itself, here, and maybe hopefully not get reissued past it. It may even get dropped a little early, but right now there's enough here, I think, to keep it going toward Duval County, toward the Atlantic Beach area, and Jacksonville Beach, and the like. I know we have folks watching like Sean on YouTube commenting that watching the hurricane season. Yeah, we'll be paying attention to that here. When we start to see more development out there, it's a possibility as we get closer toward that peak season. So we'll have to stay, alert. Will that action, whatever happens, threaten our area? Hard to say at this point. Way too early to kind of go into that. But it's always important to be prepared. But this is not from that. We have some tropical moisture, but that's about it with what we're dealing with this afternoon. So just kind of be mindful of everything that's going on, though, obviously. As we're looking at things, as we're tracking things here, it's just good to always stay tuned here for the latest. I'm going to go ahead and keep on looking here at the latest. I want to go ahead and pull some more information up on another source here in a moment, but just bear with me here. Just doing man band. Going through some stuff behind the scenes. We had all that winter weather earlier this year, but it's stark contrast from that now. That is the storyline at this moment. I mean, it doesn't get much bigger than that in terms of the contrast. I mean, today is the 21st of July. We get in the upper 90s in a lot of our areas, but 6 months ago tomorrow, as I go to our graphic system here, we had this. And that is a tiny snow flurries here east of Stark, a much bigger story up toward like Albany and the like here as we're looking and as we're tracking things. What a contrast to go from there. I mean, that's how it works in meteorology pretty much around here. Maybe not the snow flurries, but, the cold, that time of year, that's about the coldest time of year, and it's about the hottest time of year, give or take a little on average. But, yeah, there's little white dots on my jacket there 6 months ago here. Those snow flurries, I know they're kind of hard to see, but that were really happening, snow grains, whatever you want to call them. But now we have all this heat around, these storms around, in towards some of the different spots. And maybe some of you might be listening, it was 33 or 34 degrees right now, but instead those are the wind numbers here. Those are your wind gust numbers. Those are pretty significant here, obviously, as we're tracking things here in toward the weather center. I'm just trying to keep you up to date on everything that's going on. I know this is what we're referring to in terms of that tropical climatology, though. We started to get in that season where we're, in a spot where we're favored for development in the Atlantic Basin. That doesn't mean that we're going to have storms locally, at that point of the year. I mean, there's more, action in general. So in a way, there's more of a chance, but doesn't mean it's going to come toward, our area. Something's out there, but later August, early October is when the peak season is, and that's when there's more storms generally, and in history anyway, that would, indicate more hits here in terms of those more destructive ones toward the state of Florida. Doesn't mean, you can not have one, outside that time frame. You sure can. We had Hurricane Dennis. That was, a storm there. That was a July hurricane. That was very bad toward areas in the Florida Panhandle. You had Debbie. That was early August last year. I mean, you had Nicole, which was in November there back in 2022. So you can have them outside of peak season and be an impact. We had outside of season with a strong tropical storm Beryl coming ashore in our area, first coast 2012. So you can definitely have some stuff outside of the peak season. But in general, the climatology says things start to uptick. The chance of, more than one storm per day, as we're looking here. So what I mean by that, so let's just pick September 5th out. The odds of there being maybe 2 storms out there even that time of year, quite a bit higher than would be here as we're looking at things right now. But if you do the math, it's a storm per day for 100 years. Not over 100, you don't ever average more than 1 a day, but the chance of, 1 is pretty high that time frame, and then sometimes there's even 2 or 3 out there as you're looking toward peak season. As we're tracking things. As we go and keep on looking at the Doppler perspective, let me just go ahead and keep on looking here at things. Some of that wind there in northeastern Duval County right around Atlantic Beach. These brighter colored on wind mode, 40, 50 miles an hour. Definitely telling a weather story here for sure. Some pretty nasty conditions as we're looking. Some of this stuff, pretty nasty. Some areas, though, when you just get rain and not as much the inclement weather, that is a relief here from the hotter weather. But you don't want too much rain too quick either, because that can lead to flooding. Not going to see anything today like we saw in Texas there or anything like that on July 4th morning, but so horrific out there. All those fatalities. Number of missing seemingly has gone down a lot, but there's just many, many dozens of folks there that were lost in that terrible flash flood in early month there, July 4th morning. Many of them there toward the Guadalupe River. And it's just a heartbreaking situation. It's always going to have that weather radio on hand there. Among other things, your phone just have multiple ways to get alerts here. Be alerted to that weather danger. I want to watch in our local area, especially with any of those tornado warnings, but the other alerts as well will be posted if we don't need to actually be on. But it'd be hard to get a situation like that type of flooding here, toward our area where it's so, coming up on you like that. I mean, we've had stuff in 94 from like that terrible tropical storm out toward southwest Georgia that caused all the problems there, with all that flooding and the like, and you've had storm surge, and we had Debbie in 2012, which is pretty bad, but it has to take the wrong set of circumstances to get the rapid water rise like that. I mean, a storm surge on the East Coast, would probably be really destructive if we had a, higher end hurricane. Haven't really seen that in so long as you're looking here since at least really 1964 in our area on the East Coast. But it's a situation that you have advance notice of, so you can get out of harm's way, like what happened around Cedar Key or Sioux Beach the last couple years to some degree. Not as bad of flooding numbers compared to what we had out toward Texas, but still would have been deadly for some folks if they wouldn't have, had the advance warning and got out of harm's way. But as we're looking here, you see some storm development in the South Jordan now. That could end up getting a warning. We shall see. And we'll have to just see that movement of it. I bet that's south. South to southeast. There's an advisory up in toward that area right now at 5:15. So have to be kind of mindful what's going on up there. May end up getting a warning closer to our area eventually. We shall see with that. You see a gust there at 41, Fort Carolina at 429. That's noteworthy. Instability here, you still see some of that. I mean, we still have some of the dark purple over 5,000 joules per kilogram of energy. Some of that in southeast Georgia even. In some areas, I've seen some rains that might dampen the setup a little for that, but still got to be remaining alert. It's still 98 in Tallahassee, 99 by the way. The actual air temperature in Quincy, even the storm chances, you know, in a way with some of the moisture factors, maybe not quite as high over there. They're still possible. I mean, these are some extreme temperatures here for sure as we're looking at things, as we're tracking the situation. And you see the wind direction shifts compared to, you know, northern areas versus the southern areas, where the wind's coming more out of the west, but coming out of the north toward the north. As we go ahead and keep on watching, keep on tracking. Again, trying to keep you informed. Let me zoom back in here. And most of that bulk of the wind now seems to be getting offshore. We still have some. Had quite a bit of rain there in Duval. Some spots picking up there. 2.79 inches. And 3. Well, actually, it says 2.5 there and then 2.79. But the Station actually measured 3 inches or so in an hour. So pretty significant as we're looking, as we're tracking things. Let's look into Georgia. Check the radar further north. Some stuff over in the Coffee County that's approaching severe limits around Broxton there. You know, Douglas, got to be watching out there. We have other areas. This here looks like it's kind of Bacon County. Some lightning there, but that's outside of the area. But this here, so it's even Fitzgerald area, but especially this here looks like it might be closer to getting a warning. So we'll have to remain alert with that. Okay, I see a warning down toward Duval. It just went away. Let's see what they said about it. The latest statement. It's canceled. Okay. So no longer posing that immediate threat to life or property. It's weakened below severe limits with some gusty winds. Still a possibility. So, but not severe limits there. We're going to watch in Georgia, still Coffee County. We're watching that area. We'll break back in if needed here, obviously, and we'll post if it's not quite, you know, needed to come on. But if we do get more warnings, and we'll be posting those, that there's severe thunderstorm, flash flood warnings towards some of our areas. But if there's tornado warning, we'll be on immediately. But, you know, even if it's not that, maybe we'll have to come back in, you know, for a severe thunderstorm warning on a live stream, because there could be enough of the dangerous conditions that seem to be coming together to ward a certain spot. So, the heat advisory toward areas here in our region, and we're just going to be paying attention to everything. I know that infrared satellite. It's a good view here of the startup of visible. There you go. Let's switch to infrared. I had visible set up already in here, but there's infrared. Oh, let's go to cloud tops there. Indicative of all that moisture there in the upper levels. You know, and trying to get down there toward the surface, as it is in a lot of spots with the storminess. Instability so high. And then we're going to be watching here the storm acts and then pop back in as the situation warrants. If the situation warrants, again here today, we'll be here with you guys. And I see some marine warning stuff coming out. Looking towards some different spots here, but let's check any more questions, comments, see if any more of those coming on in. Just going to check here real quick. See if I see anything. Bear with me. Been on for a little while here. We were on earlier too. Appreciate everybody tuning in here. on this Monday. And this work week getting off to a pretty rough start with this max in here already hot. I mean, you wanted to cool off some, and the storms can do that, sir, but then they have lightning with them, wind, you know, the heavy downpour. We need the rain in some spots still for sure, but you don't want too much too quick. So it's always a give and take here as we're looking, as we're tracking things. So just got to remain alert here for these rapidly changing conditions here in the overall weather picture. That's, you know, just paramount here as we're looking at the situation and as we're tracking things. I'm just trying to stay on top of it all here as the situation does transpire. But again, no more warnings currently. Marine warnings, sure, but not over land with the severe thunderstorm warning, accident, or any flash flood warnings. I haven't had any of those, or tornado warnings today. We got close with a storm earlier for tornado warning activity. You know, with a tornado warning almost having to get issued there. We're in the St. John's, Putnam area there, the St. John's River area, but didn't quite have to happen. Great news there, of course. It was more of something closer toward the river itself, which would have been indicative more of a water spout probably. But okay, we're going to wrap it on up. We're going to wrap it on up here. And we'll pop back in, you know, as conditions warrant. But we're ending the stream for now. Stay safe.